This meeting is being recorded.
This meeting is being recorded. And if you do not want your likeness or the objects in your room to be recorded, please exit and call back on the phone. And I think that only applies to two of you, but if you'd like to do that, you're welcome to. I bet you're not, but you're happy to do that. It is going to be recorded. And the usual warnings apply. It will be shown on the video, which will be publicly available on our website. I'd like to formally call the meeting to order and do the roll call as soon as I read the mission. The mission of the Chuckanut Community Forest Park District is to ensure the entirety of the property is protected in perpetuity in public ownership with respect to its ecological, recreational, educational functions, and to serve as a fiscal mechanism through the district by a tax levy that will pay the City of Bellingham Greenways Endowment Fund, which we have. I'll go ahead and do the roll call. Ed Grumbine. Here, yeah. And let's see, John Hymas.
Here.
Yeah, Frank James, I'm here. Hugh Beatty.
Here.
You're here. I think, I don't know whether we anticipate, has anyone heard if we anticipate John showing up?
He usually says one way or the other if he's going to show up. So if hasn't said anything, it usually means he's coming.
Yeah, exactly. Not having heard from him, we do have a quorum, so we will go ahead and start the meeting anyway. And
ask a question, a technical question here.
Sure.
I clicked on this thing that says participants. There was like 9 people, and it comes up a white screen, and it comes right in front of everything, and I can't get rid of it. Is there a place to click to get rid of the participants' white screen? It lists everybody's name.
You should be able to click the participants button again to toggle it off.
Yeah, I just turned mine on and it turned off just fine by just pushing on it again. So if you go to that participants square with the 10 beside it, the 2 heads, just click on that again and it should go away.
But I can't get to it. I can't see it because it's behind the white screen.
Move your screen around maybe, or on mine, I've got a green button that allows it to go full screen or reduce from full screen. Can you do that, Hugh?
No, I did reduce it down to see you in a little corner there when you were, there you are. That's all I can see is you though.
Click on that though, it ought to bring that to the front.
Hugh, in the upper left corner of the participants menu, there should be a little down arrow. If you click that, it's very small. It's in the very upper left corner of the participants menu, and that should give you the opportunity to close that as well.
No. Try again.
We can see you just fine, Hugh.
Yeah. Oh, you can? Oh.
Yeah. Nice scarf.
Oh, there I found it now. I think I did. What I did is I went control and made it smaller, that white screen. Now I can find a place to click and get rid of it. Good.
Well, I do want to introduce to everybody that already knows everybody that Bob, our legal counsel, is here, and we're glad to have him. And 3 loyal community members that are supporting this district ably. That's Barbara and Christopher, and want to welcome everybody and anybody else who might be listening in any other way, including looking at this later on. Good evening. Having made those introductions, I'd like to open the meeting for general comments from the public. Each of you would be entitled to 3 minutes. And please, you don't need to be formal about it. You can just take your 3 minutes or not. Christopher?
I don't have anything specific to say, but a question. Did the park department ever acknowledge the height of the trees and the age?
I don't recall seeing a formal response to that other than acknowledging they got the letter and saying that they would talk to their consultants about it. I don't think they've, to my knowledge, they haven't actually measured any trees. And so I think it's in the la land of the consultants.
And I
Correct
think
me
that
if I'm wrong,
consultant-
anybody.
I was just gonna say, I think that consultant is managed by the Public Works Department, not the Parks Department.
I think aren't what I heard talking to city people was the parks and public works are now one department. Is that true?
I have not heard that.
I
No,
had,
they are moving to the same new building
oh, I see.
on Pacific. They've moved to that new 5-story building or whatever to get, but I don't think they've melded offices.
So they're a co-housing project, but not a. All right, that's probably good news for all of us.
Well, I'd suggest that that's something that we keep bugging them about because they're probably hoping that they can just let it slide until they don't have to do anything anymore.
Something
Right.
tells me John McLaughlin won't let it slide.
Well, good.
We'll definitely
John.
maybe turn that over to him. He's excellent at following up on this stuff. But thank you, Christopher. Good point. Barbara, did you have anything to add or anything you'd like to say?
I think that John is still at the Grand Canyon. He was going to be there for a month, so I think that's probably where he is. Otherwise, I'll just wait for the report till we're on the agenda. For the
All righty, great. And any public comment on your part, Vincent?
Yeah, no, same as Barbara. I just, when
Yeah.
we get to that agenda item, if there's anything to add.
Well, I just wanted to thank all three of you for your leadership in the community and your efforts in correcting the public record in a way that's objective and fair. And I very much appreciate your efforts and know it's a lot of work and appreciate it. Let's go ahead and move on to the, is there a Park Advisory Board meeting report? We always pick on you about this, Mr. Hymas. Anything you're aware of or any report that's
Not-
coming?
Not that I've heard that pertains to us. If John Bleffin shows up, he may have a better idea, but no, not to my knowledge.
I've been showing up at those meetings some and at the beginning, but I don't last through the whole thing. So I haven't seen anything relevant to us at their
I think
meetings.
they're
but-
working on a greenways. They're setting up a greenways race for the future here or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
know what number it
Great.
is, but.
Old business, the education and public relations. and
Frank?
community. Yes.
Before we do that, we should probably approve the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me. Yeah, of course. You all have the agenda if you care to look it over. It is revised from the first one that came out. So please take a look at it and make sure that everything that you think should be on the agenda is on it. And if there's any other additions, corrections, or deletions, let me know. And then we'll need a formal motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Hymas, seconded by Grumbine. Any further discussion about the agenda? Hearing none, raise your right hand and say, yeah, if you approve it. There we go.
Yes.
Universal acclamation. And so the agenda is approved. And also we have the minutes of our January 25th meeting, which were sent out earlier by Robin. If people had a chance to look at that.
Yes,
Um,
I would move approval.
There were, I don't have it here with me. There were some basic Scrivener's errors types things, but I think nothing that changes the substance of the minutes. So I would accept that motion. And Hugh, you seconded, is that right?
I moved it.
You moved it? Okay. And John, you seconded it?
Sure.
Okay, great. So moved by Mr. Beatty, seconded by Mr. Hymas. Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand. Say aye. Yeah. Man, so you can't vote on that. You're just waving your hand at it.
No, I was just waving my hand because Ed Grumbine seconded it, but
I
you're
was just,
fine. I'm not changing your order now.
it's okay.
I'll
Yeah.
keep my hands down.
I got to say I'm tired, so please correct me if I make mistakes. Great. So now we can move on to our old business, which is the education, Community Education Committee, and we welcome your report of what happened. I think you've had at least one meeting with the public in the form of the neighborhood meetings, and I know there are several more planned. Barbara, please.
Well, actually, we've met with 3 neighborhoods. The first was South Neighborhood. The second was Fairhaven Neighbors. And last week we met with Edgemore.
Great.
And that was Edgemore had the most attendees. These were all Zoom meetings, but they had like 75 people.
Wow.
It was the Mud Bay discussion, I assume, that same night, right? So they had a lot of interest in that. Yeah.
Yeah. And really received a lot of appreciative comments. The Fairhaven Neighbors went really well. The South Neighborhood was more sparsely attended and had a little bit more emotion in a couple of the people. So that my whole focus with this has been to just in 15 minutes, Christopher does 5 minutes of the history, because a lot of people have moved in and don't know the history.
Yeah.
Then I do an update in terms of why the Park District what the work is this year about the conservation easement and how important that is. And then Vince does 5 minutes on the master plan to give people an understanding. You can go where you can locate it. And it's been really good because it's short, but it gives people, I feel like it gives people back a positive feeling about the 100-acre wood and the Park District. So that's been my experience. Hoping to go to Happy Valley in March. That's still kind of up in the air.
They had such a full agenda, it wouldn't have worked last time. So this time we'll push
Yeah.
it. We'll get
Yeah.
there.
Well,
Yeah.
Alex, who was the president, who I understand isn't the president anymore, was not feeling that this was anything that needed to happen. And he was very, negative.
Just say the word. Yeah, negative. just
Well, trying to find what could I say? I
Yeah.
was shocked. Like, I just kind of go, this is about the 100-acre wood. And even if you weren't so supportive of it, how could it be such an emotional issue for people? Like, I mean, I understand I was emotional about protecting it, but now that we have, how is it that people's emotions run so high? But anyway, I haven't heard from South Hill. And so we'll pursue that a little bit more and hope to be on Happy Valley. I just feel like it's been positive to bring the information quickly and, in a positive way. What do you think, Vince?
Oops. Yeah, I agree with Barbara, everything you said. And, if you commissioners create an elevator speech or just a little bit of a press release taking the information from our 3 presentations that I think we've all given you paper copies of the outline anyway, then that would be a good substitute also. And then if elaboration was needed, we could go to what we've said before. But that's what I'm hoping for. And, to come out of tonight's meeting.
I'd suggest we get the written form on Northwest Citizen.
Yeah.
Well, good suggestions and strong work. I mean, good job. Thank you so much for doing that community outreach and that and the listening too. I think hearing what people are saying is really important as well. So
Right.
Maybe we can
thanks
give
for
it to
doing
that
that.
Yeah.
woman from the Cascade.
Mhm.
paper.
I'd like to say, as far as our president went, I don't think he was well informed. But I
Well,
think he's kind of been enlightened. So, and we have a new president now too, but Alex was frying other fish with the city. That's
Yeah.
what he was focused on. So anyway, I don't want to apologize for him, but I just want to say that.
Well, it's so funny because basically when I sent out the requests to be included on agendas, the other neighborhoods were, welcoming. And he was, just so negative to me personally, and saying I was casting aspersions. And this was kind of going, and gaslighting. And I'm kind of going, where's this coming from?
Yeah.
And then he says, I don't need it. I don't need this information. And I was kind of like, you're just going to speak for the whole neighborhood? You don't need it, but you're going to say nobody needs it? But I knew also that he was only going to be there for, February. And then but apparently he's the vice president. So he still has.
Yeah.
Can I ask John, who is the new president?
Peter,
Peter?
Oh gosh, what's his name?
I don't remember either, but he's a good guy. He's
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Well,
and you can't miss him. He's got a beard to his belt.
Oh.
Well, if you have an email for him, if you forward that to me, then I will ask to be on the next in March, if that works.
Will do.
Thanks.
I had a detailed and very long exchange with Alex, actually. And I think he's very, very angry about how the city is treating that neighborhood. And he feels like they're not getting their fair share, and you need to listen. If you listen to him, he's got a lot of legitimate issues. The Happy Valley's really been mistreated by the city. They upzone things and they downzone them. They've it's been a very difficult time. I mean, I've lived there in that neighborhood, and it's also it was the densest and the most diverse neighborhood in the city,
and one of the poorest.
Yep, exactly.
We gave the Forest District the best vote too.
Yeah.
So. But I think I'm not so sure how much of that was really directed at us as just his frustration and not getting what he perceived needed to be done.
It was pretty direct.
We sort of felt like we were competing with him for bandwidth. So it's unsurprising that he responded that way to me. But I think it's also, he's not a bad guy. He's really trying to do the right thing for his community. And I think we just need to listen and try to be at least my thought was to be as supportive as we can for the very legitimate asks that they're doing with the city. It's kind of like the folks on the North End not having enough parks.
Right.
You support them.
It's that old battle. But I think we just need to move on with the facts. And
I know.
Yeah, and getting sidetracked on things is always a bad idea. Well, thank you very much for that effort. And I think so board members, I don't know if you had a chance to read the things that these folks have written. I think they're thoughtful, they're accurate, and I think that we should probably try to work with them to develop that elevator speech length piece that would be appropriate for the written domain. 300 words isn't very many. I mean, the hard part is going to be paring it down to just the most essential information. So does anybody want to interested in taking that on?
I'll take it on.
Ed Grumbean, I was going to look at you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll help too, Ed. I've been reading it all along and very supportive of what's going on. So, and I think the other thing the community needs to know that, these are people that are independent folks, separate from the board proper, and are doing really important community outreach, citizen to citizen. I think that's a really important thing to emphasize. So thank you very much. And thank you, Ed, for stepping up. Like I said, I'd be happy to help some too.
I'll take the drafts and meld them into one document. I'm not sure it's going to be as lengthy, as short as an elevator speech, but it'll be certainly shorter than the 3 documents that we have as drafts.
Right.
And
Well, if we're going to get it in the press, we can send out a press release. It's pretty long, but any letters would have to be in that very short format. So
yeah, so I'll do that and then send a draft to you, Frank, and then you can have at it. And then
You need 2 documents, one really short one and then one a little bit bigger.
I like what's been submitted by you guys. I think it's excellent. I've had a few people that I know read through it and they really got it, And,
but it does need to be
unified. Yeah.
Unified. Yeah. And I learned when I'm speaking, like I wrote the first time I did just bullet points to myself and I like spoke ad lib during the first meeting. And I did that pretty much a second time too. And then for the third meeting, I thought, well, I really need to have a script because I knew this day would come where I'd need to submit it to you guys. So I wrote it out. And then when I tried to read it out loud with a timer to make sure I was under my minutes, I found that it didn't flow correctly. The way you speak and the way you write or read are 2 different ways. So I had to edit it again. So what I'm saying, Hugh, is, Ed's going to need to edit things a little bit just so that it reads well.
I'll just I'll make it into bullet points, and I'll do the elevator speech version. And if Frank or someone else wants to expand those points into let's call it the press release version, have at it. My personal opinion on press releases is that I already did that with a guest editorial some weeks ago. I'm not sure if we have to do that again, but you never know. Might have to do it again.
Yeah, the press is a little fickle in Bellingham. There aren't a lot of places to go with it, but there are some.
Well, we haven't taken it to the Herald. I mean, the mothership, so to speak. So maybe that would be a home for it.
Right.
Yeah, and Hugh's idea of Northwest Citizen too. I mean, once we have something good, it could go there too.
The Cascadia reporter, Julia Lerner, was at the Edgemoor meeting.
Great.
And I noticed that there was an article about the Mud Bay Cliffs in Cascadia, but the 100 acres woods were not mentioned.
I want to just recognize you've had Tom join us, and Tom, we already passed the usual public comment period, but we'd be happy to extend that opportunity to you as soon as we're finished with this discussion. And if you don't want to talk, that's fine too. But if you do, we want to give you an opportunity. Excuse me, Barbara.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't think it's worth pursuing it with the Cascadia. They already did their coverage. They're not going to backtrack, especially as the editorial was pretty blatant. So I think it's good to go to some others. I really think it's a South Side issue. I don't think the whole community is that involved in it. So I felt like if we went to the neighborhoods that have been, that are part of the park district and really made sure that at least for the people who come to the meeting, there's some communication, that it's always good to get more if there's more positive publicity.
Sure. Well, again, thank you very much for doing that, and we appreciate it.
In terms of timing, I'll get something to you, Frank, before the end of the week. How's that?
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, that'd be great. Then, before we go on to explore any other old business, I did want to offer Tom, if you'd like to say anything, you're welcome to have 3 minutes to talk with us, or you're welcome not to do that too. It's really up to you. If you do want to do that, you just have to unmute and speak up. And again, it's perfectly fine if you want to listen to, no problem.
Oh, I just thought of something. How about, remember the Dean and Dudley's video of way back?
Mhm.
We should always plug that a little bit for the new people to look at. They would probably appreciate that.
Yeah, Treasure Without Measure. That was a
Yeah.
great thing. It's a 4-part series, I think, and around a half an hour or so long, and
Yeah.
very, very well done. Although it's been 20 years, I think.
Somewhere it's on the website, on our website, isn't it still?
Yeah, it's available readily. I put it on the Facebook page and in segments, in 4 segments. Any other old business that we should attend to? If not, we can move on to the new business. Yes, Robin?
There was a couple other things under education that you had mentioned in the email to me that I put on the agenda. I don't know if you want to talk about those tonight or.
Right, there were the 2 other items that are really part of our overall discussion is just one thing that hasn't been talked about much, and Ed, you're probably the most expert person about this, is the beneficial impact of those middle-aged Douglas firs, which, if I understand correctly, sequester more carbon than almost any other plant. And the fact that the forest is made up largely of those middle-aged Douglas firs, they're big, so they need a lot of carbon. They're taking a lot of carbon out. The city, if you cut a tree like that down, you have to plant 3 other trees in its place, which probably will be a long time before they get up to speed in terms of sequestering that much carbon. But I think it's worth mentioning that this is, bless Joe Yaver's heart. He always called this the lungs of the city. Remember, I can hear his voice saying that. And I think there's some truth in it. I think it is a significant contribution. But I think that's just one issue that I just think if there were some factual things, Ed, just a few sentences really to make that point, I think it would be an important addition. Everybody, of course, is in the summer, we remember climate change because of the wildfires. In the winter, we remember them because of the king tides. Our neighbor got flooded out entirely, had destroyed the house. These are not normal, and they are new, and kind of cutting down the very best sequesters of carbon there are probably is a bad idea. And certainly we want to preserve them if we can. But I think some comment about that would be helpful. The other thing was just having some sort of discussion about the options for educating people with regard to the off-leash law. And really, and that there's a process for identifying off-leash places, and this isn't one of them, and is unlikely to become one. So I think those are 2 things that I thought could or should be part of this educational effort. But they were just my thoughts. I didn't mean to elevate them to an agenda item. Just kind of those are 2 things that I think would be beneficial. And I think they're really just points of information. Yeah, Bob?
I was looking back at the conservation easement and the different versions and amended version, and we do have in the most current version that there will be no off-leash dog areas in this forest, period. Right. So I think that's a significant protection for our forest, and I think it's worth pointing that out. I also, since I've got the floor, I just want to really personally thank Barbara and Christopher and Vince for what you're doing. That is so valuable to reach out and touch people in their neighborhood meetings. You don't even know who you're touching when you're doing it. And You probably will never know, but I think it's really valuable what you've been doing, and I'm just thankful that you had the time and energy to do it. So I wanted to express my appreciation to all three of you.
Yeah.
You know, from a process point of view, I think that's fabulous recognition, and it serves as a transition maybe to new business. In terms of managing our time, when we go into
Can I
executive
interrupt
session.
1 second?
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to let you guys know that John McLaughlin is out there in the ether, and he's trying to get on, but he's having trouble. And right now he's working with Richard to try and get on. So
Awesome.
I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Thank you. Yeah. John from the bottom of the Grand Canyon, probably, or maybe on the North Rim. Huh? If it's as cold down there as it is up here, I don't envy him much. It's I've heard it's cold down that way.
It's way cold.
So,
They're having a major winter storm right now.
Yeah, exactly. I know people went down to go climbing, and they're not climbing, that's for sure. We need to go into executive session to have a discussion. Typically what we do is we identify a time certain that we'll be back. And I'm not sure what that'll be. And then we have most of the rest of our work is pretty mundane stuff that we come back for, which are the expenses and treasurer's report and then the consent agenda. Might it make sense to do those things first and just get them out of the way? Okay,
that sounds good.
With consent there, then let's just move on to that monthly expense and cash flow sheets. Petty cash in WECU is $2,967.11 as of the 31st of January. The treasury report beginning unencumbered balance is $274,546, and the ending unencumbered balance as of 12/31 was $258,430, and as of January 31st this year, 257,899. We received tax revenues of $500 in December and $126 in January. And we paid out $13,616 in operating expenses for December and $657 in January. So we're clearly tapering down and have adequate reserves for the responsibilities that we have. I'd like a motion to approve the district payroll input form for wages for Robin for 29.75 hours in January, for a total gross of $743.75. Do I hear a motion for that?
I move approval for Robin's wages.
Great. Move. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Thank you. So that would be Beatty and Hymas seconding. Further discussion of that? Hearing none, please raise your hand and say aye if you want to approve that district payroll. Thank you very much. Passes unanimously. The consent agenda will need a motion to approve the following payments when we're finished. And that's basically the February 9th, 2023 invoice 304 from Hartel for $300 for technical services. And that's what allows us to continue to have these hybrid meetings, both the online and the in-person meetings. Do I hear a motion to approve that?
I move to approve.
And do we hear a second?
Second.
So moved and seconded, and further discussion of that. Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
I see a unanimous vote. Just a reminder that Robin Albro will send out an email to 3 board members after the meeting, John, Ed, and Hugh, and you're asked to respond as quickly as possible for efficiency. And you simply need to say that you approve of this in that email form that allows us to approve in a legally formal way the budgetary decision, particularly that we've made. Robin, I see you're holding the microphone.
Yeah, you just mentioned Richard's invoice. Were you looking at the agenda that had Carmichael Clark and RLI Surety on it?
You know, I've got the amended agenda. Did it not get onto that amended agenda?
It was on the amended agenda that I have, but
Okay.
you only have one.
They
on
should
it?
be there. I was looking for them down the page while we were talking. Just a second.
I just didn't remember hearing you talk about it unless I just totally spaced
No, I
out.
didn't, because I was going down that agenda that I had. Just one second. That's the agenda 2/22/23.
It should say amended at the top.
2/20.
Yeah.
Oh, John McLaughlin sent an email. Yeah. He says he's trying to connect, but struggling, I think.
He's rebooting his computer to see if that will help.
Okay.
So I apologize. Let me get
Guys.
this corrected agenda. So there are two more items on it, and there are the payments on January 15th for an invoice number 01897 from Carmichael Clark, $2,563 for professional services, and also the petty cash for payment of invoice 0613895 from RLI Surety for $350 for our public official names schedule bond. So there would be those three invoices for $2,563 and $350 for those purposes. Now, let me start over and see if I can get a motion to consider paying those.
Move approval of the
Approve.
Good.
So it was it you moved by Hugh and seconded by Ed, or
No, go ahead, Ed.
so?
I started talking, but I stopped because somebody else started. So
I motion to approve.
So Grumbine moves and Beatty seconds. Is that right?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Is there a discussion of this item? Hearing none, raise your right hand and also say aye. And
Aye.
looks like a
Aye.
unanimous vote. Thank you very much. And then the same reminder I'll get to now that Robin sent out an email to John Hymas, Ed Grumbine, and Hugh Beatty, and please respond by confirming the approval for paying the bills. So that completes our routine work. We do have an executive session, and we can certainly come back at the end of that for the public. Ed, do you have well, I guess I was going to ask maybe Bob, do you have an estimate of how long we might be? What you got a recommendation on what time we should return?
I think at least 20 minutes and maybe a half an hour. And if we run longer, we can come out and extend the time, which we did last time.
So it's 6:40. Why don't we say we'll return at 7 o'clock? And any of you that would like to join us again, once we're back out of that, please either stay online or come back at 7 o'clock and we'll promptly be back then.
And I guess one other thing we're supposed to state is whether action is expected when we come back. We don't have to be right about that, but we can say one way or the other.
Yeah.
I would say we need a little more time. Maybe 7:15 we should come back. That gives us.
Well, I think there are two different questions. And Hugh, I think the earlier question is, do we expect action? And I know, Bob, that it's your recommendation that we take action. So I think we should say that we're going to expect action.
Well, you don't have to say you're going to expect it. We can say we may take action.
Right.
Or
We may
no
take
action
action.
will be taken, one of the
Right.
two. So people know if to come back if there might be something. We don't have to.
Yeah.
To Hugh's point, I would honor that if he thinks 7:15. I think that's really only a half an hour, just a little over a half an hour.
Yeah.
Okay,
do
but
it.
then we have to come back in that, if we're finished early, we got to come back at the appointed time, right?
Right.
We do our best. If we come back early, we come back early.
I'm
All right.
gonna zoom out, but I do want to say thanks to all of you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. So Tom, if you haven't spoken up, but we'll be back in about half an hour. And if you'd like to join us at that time, please either sign back in or just stay on, and we'll be back in roughly 7:15.
So what I'm going to do for Tom, you can either sign out and come back, or I can put you in a waiting room while they're having their meeting. So if I put you in the waiting room and you want to leave, you can. Oh, well, he left. So that answers that. So Richard and I will now turn our sound off and our visual off, and you guys can have your meetings.
All right. Thank you very much.
Right. And Frank, just call me when you're done. And
Yeah.
John may come on. We'll try and call him and see if he's having.
Will he be
any
able to get in?
Yes, he can get
Okay.
in.
Super. Okay, great. The
Okay.
wonders of technology. Thank you.
This meeting is being recorded.
So so with the public portion of the meeting that's resumed, we did not conclude our business in our executive session, and we'll need another 15 minutes to do that. So we will return at 7:32, and we look forward to your participation then. Thank you. And I think in view of our discussion, we're trying to get towards making a decision this evening rather than delaying it to our next meeting. So I want to thank you, and we'll be back at 7:32.
Okay, Tom, I'm going to put you back in the waiting room. There we go. And I'm going to go away too.
And you turn the recording off too, Robin.
Thank you.
This meeting is recorded.
Just for the record, I'd like to publicly remind people that this is a public meeting, and anyone in it that doesn't want their surroundings or their likeness recorded should turn off their camera now. I see Tom joining us again, presuming that's Tom behind that word, Tom. We do want to have a vote now on an issue. These are advisory in nature. Well, one's advisory, one is a commitment. And just to briefly summarize, we want to say that our intent is to assign the conservation easement to the land trust as one action, and a corollary action is that we would like to designate our support for the current draft of the conservation easement as it has been drafted by Bob Carmichael
And Ranjack.
and Ranjack jointly. If that's correct, I'd like a motion to that effect.
Actually, sorry to interrupt.
Sure, Bob.
I'm not sure I want the motion, that second motion to read that way, because even though Rand and I have been working on the amendment to the conservation easement, certainly Alan Mariner has worked on revisions to this as well. And so what I'd like to do is on that second motion, simply say that that the board would move to declare its support for the version of the conservation easement amended or amendment as forwarded to them, as forwarded to you on February 3rd. And then we've got a record of that. We know what that is. And that would be a precise way.
And to publicly acknowledge that it is the work of the Parks Department, Alan Mariner, Rand Jack, and you, and, well,
Yes.
and us here at the table.
Yes.
Ed and I have participated in that as well, and our board, as their proxies, we all attend. So, so then let's get back to crafting language then, but someone beside me is going to need to do it. Well, I'll offer it up. Then that we, first off, that we declare our intent to assign the conservation easement to land trust. A,
The
and
Whatcom
B,
Land Trust.
pardon me?
A Whatcom Land Trust.
Whatcom Land Trust.
Yeah, Whatcom Land Trust, yeah.
Many land trusts.
Be precise, yeah. And then secondly, to support the version of the conservation easement jointly agreed, developed by the Parks District, Alan Mariner, Rand Jack, and our council and our board, as was documented in the February 3rd email to all members of the board at 6:24, I think.
At 6:24, and just a point of clarification, the recent changes to it, the city or Mr. Mariner have not accepted.
Right, yeah, it's a work in process.
Working, right. But what you see, what basically the point is, the motion would be the document that you received February 3rd. That's what you're in support of.
Right. And that we're authorizing our team to go back and have further discussions with Rand Jack representing the land trust, with our board member Ed representing us, and Bob, of course, and I'm sure Mr. Mariner and the Parks Director. So I think that's clear. Is that clear, everybody?
Yeah.
So who's going to make that motion now? Being the chair, I don't think I should.
Really? Well, I'll make it. I thought the chair could make it.
As a matter of policy, since I control the process, I shouldn't be offering up the content, I don't think. So Hugh, if you want to.
I'll second that.
So BD
Move
moved and Jaime's seconded.
Represent us on conservation.
Great. All those in favor say, well, discussion. Is there more discussion? Thank you very much. Robin, you have a point of information, or?
Are you guys moving and supporting on the last thing, the support the version of the conservation easement from February 3rd? That's what you're voting on right now?
And we're having a second component of that, is that we're declaring our intent to assign the conservation easement to the Whatcom Land Trust.
So those are two different motions,
They're
or?
two parts of the same motion.
Okay, just wanted to be clear about that.
Thank you for clarifying. Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Finally.
It's unanimous. Let the record show. And Tom, you've been very patient, and we're sorry to have moved you out for the executive session, but I think you know what we've done. If you want to comment, you're welcome to. If you don't, that's fine too. No problem.
Unmute yourself to talk if you want to talk.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for perseverance. And this has been a late evening for us, and I'm sure for you too. So thanks, everybody. There is no additional business. I'd like to call this meeting.
Well, I have an idea I'd like to discuss with the board while we're here.
Okay.
We still have a real problem as far as fire goes, wildfires and such. And we know that the city isn't really equipped to fight a fire in the forest, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm thinking big picture here. We have the reservoir, Lake Whatcom. We have an airport. We have Patty Murray with all those Boeing big ships or planes that were made to haul water. And there's surplus of them. We could park a plane down at the airport there. If there's ever a wildfire that breaks out in Whatcom County and they need some water dropped on it, it would be there. And it's something that she could set up and Larson and him could work it out. You know, it would be funded and we wouldn't have to do anything, but we could advocate for some fire protection for the county.
Well, I think that's a great idea, Hugh. And it's one I hadn't thought of. So, and there was actually in some of the public testimony, there was somebody very knowledgeable, I think, from the fire department involved. It
Right.
might be
Yeah,
useful to
Todd
go back and hook up
Likas.
with them to move that forward. I think we would be the happy beneficiaries of such a plan, as would every other forested area in the city.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. I don't know that we have authority or responsibility for the larger picture, but I think it's a great idea. Other comments?
I agree. I think it's a great idea.
All right. Thanks for bringing it up, Hugh. And I think there's going to be a day when we look back and we'll either be very grateful for your efforts or we'll be very regretful that we didn't pay attention. So thank you. All right. Thanks, John McLaughlin.
Regarding Hugh's comment, this issue came up before the city council a few months ago regarding the current lack of capacity for wildland firefighting among the city's fire department, including lack of tools, lack of training. And the city council received some words of commitment from the fire chief that they were going to start acquiring that. So that would apply not only to the Chuckanut forest or the 100-acre wood, but the Arboretum, Clark's Point, and a variety of other very important forest areas. So that would be something to work with the city. The last thing I would have a question about regarding the version we just voted to approve. I had been looking at an earlier version that had a much more extensive language about the easement holder specifying being able to take a variety of supervisory functions if there were impacts to the critical areas. And I noticed in that February 3rd version, that all has been reduced to one brief paragraph. Wondering, is there any information about how that extensive section got reduced so much?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about that before you joined, John. The bottom line is, again, it was one of those issues I pushed up against Rand on, and he did not want that extra language. Same as he didn't want mitigation sequencing. But it is, as you pointed out at the very beginning, what we got in that proviso is something unusual for the land trust to put in a conservation easement. I've never seen that in a conservation easement before. And so I think that it's a good thing.
Thank you.
So, gentlemen, remember, you will get an email from three of you from our secretary there that's helping us out, Robin, and please respond to it promptly. Thank you. All right, now I really will hold the meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody. See you next month, maybe before. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for attending, Tom.
Yeah.